right? So I'd like to welcome everybody here at Southern Chautauqua Federal Credit Union. Many of you are familiar with us. For those that aren't familiar with us, we are a community development financial institution, special designation from the U.S. Treasury Department, and that's based on all the work we do in our community to raise the standard of living of the residents of Chautauqua County. We have tons of programs to help struggling families out, and we have tons of programs for those individuals that are on the right path to financial freedom. We're here to help our community. This is all part of it. We built the training center this past year, and we want the training center to be used by everyone in our community to network and to educate. When I look around this room, I think to myself, the amount of wisdom that all of you have just blows me away. All of the knowledge that you have is incredible. But unfortunately, we live in a time now where that knowledge may not be useful when it comes to internet and scams and our phones now and whatnot. So we're going to make it our mission to help individuals understand what's going on out there, and we're going to want to make sure, if nothing else, if you remember nothing else from today, remember that I don't care where you bank, stop in at any branch. If you have something that looks suspicious, we can't tell you for sure if it's a scam or not, but we can tell you if it's following the patterns of a scam. And I've always felt like if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a duck. But the number of people that get scammed because they believe, their hearts are just wanting this to be true. The number of people that are taken advantage of by very bad people is consistently growing. So we have some great panelists here. First, Walt didn't know it, the gentleman with the camera. Walt's kind of responsible for this. He gave me a call and said, hey John, this is something I do across the country. Would you be interested in doing it in the new training center? And I said, absolutely. So Walt's been involved with a myriad of things, but he's been a credit union advocate for absolute years. I can't even, 40, 50?
By age, yeah.
Yes. So, we also have Josh Ciliano with us. Where'd Josh go?
I'm up here.
There's Josh. Josh, you want to tell us about yourself?
Yes. Morning, everyone. I'm Josh Ciliano. I'm a supervising attorney at the Center for Elder Law and Justice. I supervise our Dunkirk office, and I supervise our elder abuse prevention unit, which deals in large part with scam prevention and recovery.
Next, we've got Tom Valerio. Very close.
Very close.
Bear Larry, so.
Larry.
Hi, Tom. So currently I'm a network intrusion forensic analyst for the Secret Service. I was a police officer with the Town of Amherst Police Department for 20 years. The last 15 or so I've been on the Secret Service Task Force, kind of rolled over. But primarily responsible for cyber investigations, fraud investigations. I probably do 20 or so of these types of presentations around the Western New York area every year. And it's literally people like yourselves that this is the greatest crowd in the world, because this is the first step right here, coming in and seeing what's going on and just understanding, and then not being afraid to protect. Like, this is the people that have the most, I feel like, to lose, because you've built your wealth over all these years and you want to keep it where it belongs, in the bank, or be able to send that wealth beyond, or transition your family to keep that. So that's what I'm here for. Not only am I involved in the beginning parts of the education, I'm also on the back end. So I get the calls when we get the call because someone took $500,000 out of someone's bank account, or they got scammed, or they clicked on something on their computer. So we'll talk. I got a lot of information, and feel free. I'll be around here, for the next day or so to answer any questions.
Awesome. And if you'd like to have a seat. And then we also have Robert Siltz. Is that close?
Yeah.
All right.
So you're on the salt, so that's fine.
There you go.
My name is Bob Seltz. I represent the Disabled American Veterans. I've been a life member of the DAV since 2000. I've been a member since 1973 when I got out of the service. The last 7 years I ran the transportation office in Buffalo. I now help veterans file claims, and we're getting a lot of, we'll discuss it in a little while. So I spent 5 years in the Marine Corps, Vietnam. I used to drown officers at Quantico's.
We also have Sheriff Jim Quattrone for us. Jim's going to be in charge of crowd control, so if you were thinking about getting rowdy, just asking you to
Keep it under control.
keep it under control. Okay? All right? Obviously, Jim's department is very concerned about this and is a great resource to Chautauqua County as well. So, I think we have a video queued up. Thank you. If anyone needs the restrooms, direct back that way. I always figured to say that. All right. Was this video one? Leslie, can you either get Shay or... Give me just a second, a little technical difficulties. So while I'm getting my IT guy over here, on your table is a brochure about our kids' credit union. One of the things that Southern Chautauqua is very passionate about is teaching kids the joy of saving, because so many kids don't understand the joy of saving. So we have a great program. If any of you have grandchildren,
Now we go.
We go to California and do business.
this is a great program to get them involved with and teach them how to
And I was very flexible with
save.
that because I've worked all my life. I know what it's like. My goals were to retire and see the world, and I couldn't wait to get retired. I had met my financial objectives. I was looking so forward. I was on top of the world. I've never married, and I thought, you know what, if I want to get married, now's the time to do it. So I thought, well, I'll try a dating site. I did Match.com. And 2 weeks passed, and that's when we started talking together. We were going to see each other, meet each other in person within the week. Then he traveled with his business, and so he had to leave and go to California and do business meetings. And I was very flexible with that because I've worked all my life. I know what it's like of putting work first. Every morning I would get an email of a poem that he wrote for me. Every morning I would also get just, hi honey, how are you doing? How was your night? When I get to the States, I can't wait to be with you. Within a month, he was just very, very heavy in terms of the dating relationship. And this is a mistake. If I made a mistake, it was that I didn't cut it off then. $150,000, $250,000, $75,000, make a check for $250,000 and then make another $50,000 check. I sent money to China and Hong Kong at the end, and people say, how can you give money to a stranger? He wasn't a stranger at that point. I mean, the way they know how to hook you and psychological manipulation. You know, they know how to do what they do. They have a script. They have a book that tells them everything of what to do. I knew in August 2019 that I would probably end up being poor with him. And I just thought, okay, I can live with him and be poor. That's okay, as long as we're together. I sold my home in May. The reason being is that I had no more money. living with it now is the hardest of hard. I can't go to the future.
What do you worry about the future?
Me not being out on the streets because I don't have any money. And at the very beginning, I mean, I had no money. My house was sold. I had no place to stay except for my car. And I had some very good, solid girlfriends. And they took me in for the first 8 months, which was really good because I think I would have probably committed suicide.
It's hard to speak after. It's hard to speak after something like that. The sad truth is this goes on, and this goes on in Chautauqua County as well. The number of people that I personally know that have been victims, that these scammers, they have a book, they know how to do it, and they just pull on your heartstrings. And then it's even worse when they realize they've been scammed. Josh, do you want to talk about some of the scenarios that you're aware of?
Yeah. So we see a wide variety of different scams. You just saw one for the romance scam. We see quite a few of those. A different subset of those are the celebrity scams. We've had clients at CELJ, Center for Elder Law and Justice, that have been talking with people online. The people claim to be celebrities. One person, she believed she was talking with Vin Diesel and was getting into a relationship with Vin Diesel, and he suddenly started asking for money, and she ended up sending him some. Thankfully, it wasn't a lot of money before she started getting suspicious and reached out, and we explained how they work, and that if somebody like Vin Diesel is asking you for money, there's something to be suspicious about here. So, and those are ones that we see. We see contractor scams quite a bit, where folks will hire a contractor to do some work, and the work will either be substandard or they won't even show up at all. They just take your money and run. We see the fake check scams, where folks will send out checks in the mail, say deposit this, take out the money, you can keep $300 for doing us a favor and send us the rest of the $5,000 check. The issue there is, even if you do check with the bank or the credit union, because of the way that the laws are set up, they may have to tell you that the money is available before the check is actually cleared, and then it can come a week later that the check didn't actually clear, and now it's a whole issue. The bank wants their money back. There's no way to really track down this scammer, so those ones are particularly tricky. And we just see a wide variety of different types of scams. I could go on all day with the different types, but.
Tom, I'll have you share your experiences next. The one thing Josh said is so true. A bank or a credit union, we have no idea if that check is good or not. There's no way for us to know. We can call the other institution and they can say, yes, there's money there today, but there may not be money there when the check clears. Most checks now are easily washed, which means they can remove the ink and they can put somebody else's name there. So it looks very authentic, but we have no way of knowing that. And the law is this: if you present a check, you are a party of that legal binding contract, and when you present it, you're guaranteeing that's a good check. And if it turns out not to be, which can take 45 or 90 days, it's not the bank's or credit union's loss. It's the person who presented that check. Don't ever present a check for somebody else, ever. They should have a banking relationship where they present that check.
So just to kind of go a little bit off the, come off of that topic, stay on that topic a little bit, with checks. I mean, we're having an issue up in the Western New York area, in this area too, where, believe it or not, the mail carriers are getting, can everybody hear me okay? The mail carriers are actually getting robbed, like at gunpoint, they're stealing the arrow key. The arrow key is the key that goes in the blue box. So they're stealing mail. What do they do with the mail? They take the mail and, John said they're washing the check, so they'll wash your name off the check. Or they look at, they'll actually drive around and look at mailboxes that have the little flag up. So one of my recommendations currently is when you know, this is traditional, you make a bill out, you write your check out, you take your mail, you put it in your mailbox, you put your little flag up. The Secret Service recommends not to do that. If you are going to mail something, you walk to the post office, or you actually hand it to the to your post person, whoever comes to your house, or go to the go right to the mail, where the post office is, and hand it there. That's one thing to do. The second thing to think about is switch yourself from making paper checks. I really feel like the future of banking needs to, and sometimes this isn't the greatest thing that bankers want to hear, but the banks have to figure out how to get away from checks. Checks are the most vulnerable way of transmitting money back and forth. You should be doing all your work online. You should try to issue that check, and I'm not sure how your bank does this, but most of the banks, the bit larger ones up in Western New York, they'll actually, if you do an online check, the check that gets processed through the mail, that gets sent to your gas company or whoever it may be, if it's an actual check, it's not just money transfer between accounts, they'll use a virtual account number. So if that check does get stolen, it's not coming from your particular account. So just something to think about. Switch to online banking. I can go into all different things, related to the checks specifically, but as Josh said, we've seen all those types of scams, and there's particular, avenues of maybe prevention or thinking about. A lot of it is just awareness, understanding how it's going to happen. There was a question.
Yeah, that's the exact opposite of what I've understood.
What is that?
That online banking is more risky because it can be hacked.
Well, so you have to look at the circumstances of online banking. If you are using, first of all, if you're using an Apple product like an iPad or something that has very, very low instances of any type of malware that can be put down. If you're using and I'll tell you this, if you're using a traditional PC computer that has Windows on it, and you don't have your antivirus up to date, and the computer is older, you're very vulnerable. And a lot of that vulnerability comes from getting emails, or, you're right, getting your computer hacked. But if your computer's in good shape, it's clean, your antivirus is up to date, it's the safest way to transmit. You're more likely to get your check stolen out of the mail. And unfortunately, not a lot of people want to hear this, but even the processing centers, there's the one in Buffalo and one in Rochester, they're run by third-party companies that hire the people to work in them. They're stealing checks out of the processing center. So it's very, very, checks are very vulnerable. We just did a search warrant on a house 3 weeks ago in Chautauqua. A guy was on probation. He actually had stacks of mail from one of those processing centers, and he had his computer set up, and he had a printer, and he was literally lifting signatures off of checks through like an online program. He could use some type of very inexpensive computer program. He was making checks, and he was going after businesses that have, instead of the $5,000 balance, these businesses that have a couple $100,000 balances, and they're moving it around. So.
If I might, a question with that is this: you mentioned about online and using your computer. Could we provide guidance to folks here who may not be so savvy using computers as to where they can go to make sure their computer is safe? And I'm from Massachusetts, so I'm not from the local area, but I'm hearing what you're saying is, and that's the question I'm coming up with now as a senior. Well, how do I make sure my computer is safe, that it has the stuff that you can do your online banking and be safe? Is there guidance that we can provide?
Very good question that I don't have the answer to. There are some nice local computer companies. I wouldn't have an online scan of it. But I think what Tom is really talking about is there are strategies to protect yourself. And one of the strategies is what Tom said. Take your mail to the post office. Take it directly there, or use an alternative, such as home banking. Home banking is safe if your computer malware and security is up to date and whatnot. I know that can be complicated. We'll do some research on it. We'll post on our Facebook if we can find a reputable company that would be willing to come out and help everybody make sure their computer is up to speed.
Actually, John, that's a great idea, that they're within the community training, that perhaps the credit union down the road could offer a little workshop about computers, making sure it's safe and all that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great, have everybody come back.
The thing I love about home banking is it allows you to look at your balance every day. And one of the safest things you can do is look at your balance daily and look at those transactions. Because the sooner we find out if there is fraud, the sooner we can take steps. The other thing that my credit union does is we give you access to your credit report for free. So if you bank with us and you have our home banking, you're able to look at your own credit report, which is very important. And I don't want to steal anyone's thunder, but some of these people now, they'll steal your identity. They'll be in California. They'll steal your identity. They'll get it just a small loan, $1,000, but they'll pay that loan back. And then they'll get a bigger loan, maybe for $4,000, and they'll pay that back. Then they're going to go buy a very expensive car that they can ship overseas and sell. And that loan's going to be in your name. These are 4-year processes the bad guys are doing. Well, if you're not looking at your credit report at least once a month, you don't know if somebody's opened a fake account for you or not. I know it's overwhelming, right? But there are strategies that we can help you protect yourself. Looking at your credit report often is a major strategy for that. Robert, what do you have?
I think everybody can hear me. One of the biggest problems, and don't get me wrong, there are some legitimate attorneys out that really help veterans. But since the PACT Act, I'm sure everybody's seen the commercials, Cape Lejeune water, this and that. These veterans are signing documents to turn over 30 to 35% of their benefits. Not only do these lawyers get, if there's a settlement, they get 30% of the major settlement, but then they're also getting 30 to 35% from each individual that filed with them. I have a lot of people coming in my office telling me, hey, look, I filed with an attorney 6 months ago. I haven't heard anything. Well, sir, the process is you're probably not going to hear anything until the lawsuit is settled. Well, what can you do for me? Well, if you get a letter from the attorney releasing you, I can file these forms for you through the DAV. We do it for free. I had a gentleman come in. Not only did he have one attorney, he signed a contract with 3 separate attorneys. And by the time he gets his benefits and they deduct their fees, the veteran's not going to have anything. We figured it out. 100%, you're getting roughly $4,500 a month with a spouse. The attorney's going to get 30 to 35% of that, plus whatever settlement you got. The veteran's going to end up with maybe $2,000 a month because he went through an attorney that was filing the same paperwork as the DAV, American Legion, Veterans of Foreign Wars. They all have service officers to help these veterans. Some of the veterans look at it and say, hey, maybe that's my way of getting, my feet on the ground. Okay? It took, when I did my update because of the PACT, there were some things that were covered under the PACT Act that weren't previously covered. When I did my update, it took 9 months to get my final rating for my disability. So it takes time, but knowing that the DAV, VFW, or another veteran service organization is going to do it for free. You don't need to go and pay a lawyer. The other issue, like you mentioned, is contractors. going in, having these, signing contracts with these veterans and then never showing up, ripping them off. Some of the other issues is in the healthcare profession. Most veterans don't realize that if you're rated 0%, you can get free care at the Veterans Hospital. So, and that are just some of the issues that are facing. The biggest one is the PACT Act and with the attorneys.
So one of the themes that we're hearing is that there are resources out there. So when you're faced with these questions, when you get, especially if you get contacted, if it's got something to do with the internet, if you're trying to sell something, if you're trying to find a companion online, which is all fine if you protect yourself, if you come up with scenarios that you're unsure of, talk to somebody. Talk to somebody. Again, I don't care who you bank with, bring it in. We can't guarantee if it's good or bad, but we can tell you if it fits the mode of what the scammers do. Slow down. If you're going to enter into contracts with contractors, do your due diligence. Call at least 3 other people that you know have used that contractor. And you can't always just ask the contractor, well, who do you want, give me your references, right? You have to do some homework on that, and you have to figure out the good and the bad. Slow down, take your time. Anytime there's a sense of urgency, anytime somebody puts a sense of urgency on you, if you sign this contract today, we'll give you 20% off your roof, don't do it. There's a reason they have to offer those incentives. And those are people that are just going to take your money and probably disappear. When you're online, slow down. If we're ready, we're going to try to run the next video. Josh, you had something?
I was just going to say that if you can always reach out to your bank if you're suspicious about anything, but there are other agencies too. The Sheriff's Department, they'll take calls if you ever have a scam and you have questions about that. I've done a few presentations with Senator Borrello's office. He will take calls and look into things if you are suspicious about something. You can call Legal Services. Selvidge one, but don't feel obligated to call us. Law New York, they're in Jamestown, you can call them. Any of the legal services providers can take a look at stuff and tell you one way or the other whether we think it's a scam or not. And the good thing about the legal services is we don't charge anything, so we don't have the issue of taking the 35% or anything. We're funded through grants typically, so we don't charge anything if you call us or Law New York.
Josh, we'll get with you. We'll get a listing of those phone numbers and we'll publicize that. Jim?
I can't stand here any longer. Now, I agree with everything these guys are saying, and I really appreciate them being here. I have done a couple presentations with Josh before. One of the things I'd like to stress is never hesitate to give us a call. Even if you think it's something minor, or sometimes people get embarrassed. I think I've been scammed, and I don't want to call because I knew better, and then they don't let that happen. So I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say this, but as I look at our county legislature, but the county got scammed, and some of our experts, fell into it. And so the scammers are smart, and they seem to be a step ahead. And so that's why we have to communicate. I think it's great seeing this group here, because sometimes we can share with each other. But a couple things that were said is don't rush. I never commit to anything without at least a 24-hour waiting period. Car dealers hate me. Anybody hates me because it's like, I'm going to wait 24 hours, I'm going to talk to some people. If somebody is like cold calling you, it's not bad if you tell them, no, I'm not interested, and they keep on pressuring you. It's not bad to hang up on. Okay, I mean, I hang up on people quite often, and just on the side of law enforcement, no law enforcement agency should be calling you, asking you for contributions. You may get something in the mail. I know the State Sheriff's Association, sometimes I endorse a couple of their fundraisers, but it's through the mail, and you can always throw them away, and you're not going to get a phone call from anybody. So don't hesitate. When I get called from law enforcement, my answer to them usually is I don't like law enforcement. And you know what? They quickly hang up. So, but please don't hesitate to give us a call at any time. And you know, the quicker we can find out something's happening, and I think John mentioned that, is the better it is chance it is for us to prevent you losing an awful lot of money. So, I'll probably have another comment after we go. But.
All right, we're going to key up this next video.
Hi, I'm Amy Conley. I live in Casanova, New York, and I received a scam using artificial intelligence the day before my daughter's wedding on June 2nd, 2023. So I was in the nail salon with my other daughter and her bridesmaids, and the phone rang and it said no caller ID. So I had heard that police sometimes use that, and since this was the day before the wedding, stress was high, so I thought I should answer it. And immediately I heard sirens and my daughter's voice, the bride. She lives about 45 minutes away. And she said in a crying voice, "Mom, I got in an accident." And it was completely, her voice, my whole body just started filling with adrenaline. And I said, "Are you okay?" And she said, "Yes." And then someone else took the phone and said, "Hello, this is so-and-so from the county, and officers arrived on the scene. Your daughter is okay. She did fracture her nose." And immediately I'm thinking, oh, she's got to walk down the aisle with a big contraption on her nose. She said she is okay, but when the officers arrived, she was very truthful and admitted that she was texting while she was driving, and doing that, she hit the car in front of her. Unfortunately, there was a pregnant passenger who was injured and is now on her way to the hospital. So because of that, your daughter was arrested. And I said, "Arrested for texting and driving?" And she said, "Yes, ma'am, the laws have changed and there was an injury. I'm going to let you talk to her again for a minute." So she gave the phone back to my daughter, or who I thought it was my daughter, and she said she had come to the city to pick something up. I said, "What city?" She didn't answer me, so I quickly said, "Oswego," and she said, "Yes." And I said, "You're going to be okay. We will be on our way and we'll get you. Don't worry about the wedding. It will all be okay." The person got back on the phone and said that I would be receiving a call and to take down this claim number or case number very carefully, and to not use my phone for 15 minutes so that the person could place the call. So I hung up and was extremely agitated. The phone rang right away, and it was someone who said they were from the probation agency and that my daughter was taken by the police officers due to the accident, and that it would be $15,000 to get her out of jail. And I said, $15,000 for texting and driving? I think that's just ridiculous. And all of a sudden, red flags went off a little bit, because I just thought that was an incredible amount of money for something like this, coupled with the fact that they arrested her for texting and driving. So I said, "I'm not going to pay that." And the person on the other end of the phone said, "What would you pay?" That was another red flag. I found that odd. So I went along and said, "Oh, I don't know, $5,000. And she said, "Well, let me talk to the judge, and if the judge is willing to lower that amount, we will call you back." And she said, "Keep your phone open," and hung up. So I was feeling that this was strange, but I still knew that that was my daughter on the phone. So while that phone call was going on, my daughter next to me, my other daughter, texted the bride, Mary Kate, and she said, "You've been in an accident, are you okay?" Mary Kate wrote back and said, "What are you talking about?" And then she said, "I'm home and I'm fine." She immediately sent me, she called me, and I picked it up and I said, "Hello," and she said, "This is Mary Kate," and I said, "You need to prove it." And she said, "What are you talking about, Mom?" and gave me my dad's name. And then I told her what happened, and she sent a picture of herself at home, smiling, saying, "I'm fine." So at that point, I knew it was a scam. No one ever called back to ask for a different amount of money. And so I realized it was a scam. And the rest of the day was spent very, my nerve-wracking, and just, I couldn't believe that that had happened.
So many things went into that scam, potential scam. I believe the scammers knew a wedding was coming up. Why? It was probably all over Facebook. Scammers like to find people when they're at their worst. Scammers like to find people that are stressed out. A wedding is stressful, right? And they probably also could learn from Facebook that the bride lived far away. So how easy it was to make this phone call and just go right into this. "Oh, your daughter's been in an accident. Oh, and she broke her nose. Now Mom's thinking about the wedding," right? There were flags on this that fortunately this person figured out. The idea is slow down, listen to what you're being told. If you're being told, "Don't get on your phone for the next 15 minutes, they're telling you that because they don't want you to call a trusted individual. Not because you can't get phone calls. You can be on your phone and get a call, right? So you listen for the flags